My parents want me to gift my condo to my sister for her wedding because she lights up every room while I just fix computers in the dark. Original post. r/JUSTNOFAMILY, posted by u/InvisibleITGuy. I'm sitting in my car in the parking garage of my apartment building, and I've been here for 45 minutes because I can't stop shaking. I'm a 30-year-old man who just had the most surreal conversation of his life with his parents, and I don't know what to do. I found this subreddit a few months ago and never thought I'd be posting here, but I need to get this out somewhere because I feel like I'm losing my mind. Some background. I'm an IT systems administrator at a mid-sized tech company. I've worked my way up over the past 8 years, starting as a help desk technician fresh out of community college, couldn't afford university. More on that later. I make good money now, enough that 3 years ago I was able to buy a 2-bedroom condo in a nice downtown area. It's not huge, but it's mine. I spent months researching the market, saved aggressively for the down payment, and I'm proud of what I've built. My sister, Emma, 26F, is a makeup artist. She's talented, I'll give her that. She does wedding makeup, special effects for local theater productions, and has a decent Instagram following. Our parents, 58M, 56F, have always treated her like she hung the moon and stars. Growing up, I was the quiet kid who liked computers. Emma was the one who did dance recitals, who had friends over constantly, who charmed every teacher and neighbor. I was invisible. When Emma wanted to go to a private arts high school, my parents took out loans. When I asked about SAT prep courses, they told me I was smart enough to figure it out. When Emma needed money for makeup school tuition, they raided what was supposed to be my college fund. When I graduated high school, they handed me a card with $50 in it and told me they were proud of me. When Emma graduated from her program, they threw her a party at a rented venue with 100 guests. I told myself it was fine. I worked 2 jobs through community college. I studied for my certifications at night. I built my career brick by brick, alone. I told myself that my parents just expressed love differently to different children, that Emma needed more support because her career path was less stable. But today, they asked me for my apartment. Emma got engaged 6 months ago to her boyfriend of 2 years, Derek. Nice enough guy, works in sales at a car dealership. They've been living with his parents since they started dating because neither of them has ever been able to afford their own place. Emma's makeup business is still building, and Derek's income is commission-based and unpredictable. My parents invited me over for dinner tonight. I should have known something was off when my mom made my favorite meal. She hasn't done that in years. Dad poured wine, which is unusual for a Wednesday. They asked about my work, my life, if I was seeing anyone. It felt strange, like they were interviewing me. Then Mom said, "We've been thinking about the wedding, and we want to talk to you about a gift for your sister." I assumed they meant they wanted me to contribute to a joint gift or something. Fine. I could do that. But no. "We were thinking," Dad said, "that you could sign your condo over to Emma and Derek. They're starting their lives together, and they need a place. You're single, you can find something else. You've always been so resourceful." I actually laughed. I thought they were joking. They weren't. Mom reached across the table and took my hand. "Honey, think about it. Emma has always struggled. Her business is just taking off. She needs stability. You've always been fine on your own. You're good at surviving." "I bought that condo," I said, "with my money. That I earned." "Don't be selfish," Dad said. "You know how hard Emma's worked to build her brand. She lights up every room she walks into. People love her. You fix computers in the dark. You don't need a nice downtown place to do that. You could live anywhere. She lights up every room. I fix computers in the dark. That's what 30 years of my life amounts to." I asked them, as calmly as I could manage, if they had any idea what that condo was worth. If they understood I still had a mortgage. If they had considered that asking me to give away my home was perhaps, just maybe, unreasonable. "You can figure it out," Mom said. "You always do. Emma needs this more." I left. I couldn't sit there anymore. My phone has been blowing up with texts from all 3 of them. Emma sent a message saying she was so excited when Mom and Dad told me about the gift idea, and asking when she could see the place to start planning renovations. Renovations. For the apartment she assumed I'd just hand over. Dad texted, "Don't be dramatic. Family takes care of family. When has family ever taken care of me? I've been the family ATM for years. I've paid for car repairs, covered unexpected bills, helped with temporary loans that were never repaid. But I've never been their priority. I've never been anything but a resource to be tapped when convenient. I don't even know what I'm asking for here. Validation that I'm not crazy? Advice. Permission to say no and mean it? I'm the invisible one. I've always been the invisible one. And I'm so tired. Edit. Thank you all for the responses. I can't reply to everyone, but I'm reading everything. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. I can't be in my apartment knowing they think of it as Emma's already. I need to figure out my next steps. Update 1. 1 week later. First, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. I read every single response, some of them multiple times. A lot of you mentioned terms I'd never heard before: golden child, scapegoat, narcissistic family dynamics, emotional neglect. I spent hours researching, and it felt like reading the instruction manual for my entire childhood that nobody ever gave me. But the real update comes from something that happened at work. I have a colleague named Marcus. We've worked together for about 3 years. He's in network security, I'm in systems admin. We collaborate on projects pretty often. We're friendly but not close. Work buddies, you know? The kind of person you chat with at the coffee machine but don't really know outside the office. On Tuesday, Marcus found me in the server room. I'd been volunteering for extra on-call shifts because honestly, I couldn't stand being in my apartment. Every time I walked in, I thought about how my family saw it as Emma's property. Being at work was easier. Marcus said, "Hey man, you okay? You've been here till midnight 3 nights this week." I gave him the standard, "I'm fine, just busy" brush off. But Marcus didn't leave. He sat down on one of the equipment cases and said something that stopped me cold. "You have the look," he said. "I recognize it. That 1,000-yard stare that comes from family stuff. The one that says you're replaying conversations in your head, trying to figure out if you're the crazy one or they are." I didn't know what to say. He told me about his own family. His brother was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Marcus was the scapegoat, blamed for everything, expected to sacrifice everything. When he was 22, his parents demanded he drop out of college to work and support his brother's business venture. When he refused, they didn't speak to him for 3 years. "It took me a long time to understand that I wasn't defective," Marcus said. "My family system was defective. And the only way I got through it was with help." He told me about a support group he attends, Adult Children of Dysfunctional Families. It meets every Thursday evening at a community center about 20 minutes from the office. He's been going for 5 years. He said it saved his life. I went to my first meeting last Thursday. I don't have the words to describe what it felt like to sit in a room full of people who understood. Not theoretically, not from a distance, but deeply and personally. A woman in her 50s talked about being the responsible one in her family, how she raised her siblings while her parents focused on her charismatic younger brother. A guy my age talked about his family taking out credit cards in his name without his knowledge. A man in his 60s, with gray hair and kind eyes, talked about how he spent his whole career funding his sister's lifestyle until he finally, at 58, learned to say no. When it was my turn to share, I told an abbreviated version of my story. The condo demand. The lifetime of invisibility. The way I'd been taught to believe my only value was what I could provide. Nobody told me I was overreacting. Nobody said, "But they're your family." Instead, they nodded. They understood. One woman said, "You're not a bad son for having boundaries. You're a healthy adult." I cried in my car after. Not from sadness exactly, but from the overwhelming relief of being seen. The group facilitator recommended a therapist who specializes in family systems and childhood emotional neglect. I have my first appointment next week. As for my family, I've been maintaining minimal contact. I sent a brief text to my parents stating that I would not be giving my condo to anyone, that the topic was closed, and that I needed space. My mother responded with a paragraph about how disappointed she was in my selfishness. My father said I was tearing this family apart. Emma sent a message saying she didn't realize I was so bitter and that she thought we were closer than this. The irony of that last one almost made me laugh. I've muted their notifications. I'm not ready to go no contact. That feels too permanent, too final. But I'm establishing distance. Marcus calls it strategic disengagement. I'm learning that protecting my peace isn't the same as being a bad family member. The group meets every week. I've already committed to going to the next one. Update 2. 2 months later. The wedding happened. I didn't attend. Let me back up and explain how we got here. After my last update, things escalated before they got quieter. My parents tried various tactics to get me to change my mind about the condo. My mother showed up at my workplace unannounced, which was mortifying. She stood in the lobby, mascara running, telling the receptionist that her son had abandoned the family. My wonderful colleague Marcus happened to be walking by and smoothly redirected her outside. Security was nearly called. My father sent a series of emails, formal, almost legal sounding, explaining why it made logical sense for me to give up my property. He cited my lack of a spouse or children as reasons why I didn't need the space. He actually wrote, "Your mother and I invested heavily in your upbringing, and it's time for you to contribute to the family's welfare." Invested heavily. As if raising a child was a financial transaction with expected returns. Emma called me crying, saying I was ruining her wedding and making everything about me. When I pointed out that I wasn't the one who made my condo a wedding topic, she hung up. Through all of this, I kept going to the support group. I kept seeing my therapist, Dr. Okonkwo, who has been patient and direct in equal measure. She helped me understand the concept of covert emotional neglect, how you can be fed and clothed and physically cared for while being emotionally abandoned. How being the easy child often means being the ignored child. She also helped me prepare for what came next. I declined the wedding invitation. I sent a simple, polite RSVP declining attendance. No explanation, no drama. Just, "I will not be attending. I wish you both happiness." The response was volcanic. My parents called it the ultimate betrayal. Extended family members I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had opinions. My aunt sent a 7-paragraph Facebook message about how I was destroying my mother's heart. A cousin I've met maybe 5 times told me I was selfish beyond words. I blocked them all. The wedding was last Saturday. I spent the day hiking with Marcus and 2 other friends from the support group. We packed sandwiches, found a trail with a waterfall, and talked about everything except families. It was the most peaceful Saturday I'd had in months. From what I've heard through the minimal grapevine I still have access to, the wedding was elaborate. Emma and my parents went all out. Expensive venue, professional photography, a live band. Derek's parents contributed what they could, but apparently my parents took out a substantial loan to make it the wedding Emma deserved. Without the free condo, Emma and Derek moved into a small apartment after the honeymoon. Not in the downtown area they wanted. Not with the space they'd imagined. But a place of their own. Meanwhile, I've been doing deep work in therapy. We've unpacked decades of conditioning. How I learned to make myself small, how I developed hyperindependence as a survival mechanism, how I internalized the message that my needs didn't matter. It's painful work. Some sessions leave me feeling raw and exhausted. But I'm starting to see myself differently. I'm not the invisible one. I was made invisible by people who should have seen me. There's a difference. Update 3. 4 months later. Something unexpected happened. I got a letter from Emma. Not a text, not an email, an actual handwritten letter. It was waiting in my mailbox 2 weeks ago, and I almost threw it away unopened. But something made me hesitate. The handwriting on the envelope looked shaky, uncertain. Not Emma's usual confident swoops. I waited 3 days before I opened it. I talked about it in therapy first, prepared myself for manipulation tactics, guilt trips, or another demand disguised as reconciliation. What I found was none of those things. Emma wrote that she had started therapy. The marriage was struggling under the weight of wedding debt and the stress of their new apartment, which had mold issues they hadn't noticed during the walkthrough. Derek had been working overtime to cover extra expenses, and Emma's makeup business had hit a slow period. They were arguing constantly. Her therapist, she wrote, had asked her to examine her family relationships. And through that examination, things had started to surface that she'd never allowed herself to see. "I always thought you were the lucky one," she wrote. "You were smart, you figured everything out on your own, you never needed anyone. I was always struggling, always needing help, always the one who couldn't make it without support. I thought Mom and Dad gave me more attention because I needed it, not because they were choosing me over you." She wrote about specific memories that her therapist helped her reframe. The time I came home from my high school graduation to find all the attention focused on Emma's upcoming summer dance intensive. The way our parents talked about my IT career versus her makeup work. Mine was just a job, while hers was a creative calling. How, when I bought my condo, they didn't even ask to see it for 3 months, but when Emma rented a studio space for her business, they drove 2 hours to help her decorate it. "I didn't want to see it," she wrote. "Seeing it would mean I benefited from something unfair. It would mean I wasn't special, I was just preferred. And that's a much uglier thing to be." The letter went on for 3 pages. She didn't ask for anything. She didn't ask me to forgive her or reconcile or give her another chance. She just said she was sorry. That she was starting to understand how much damage had been done to both of us, me through neglect, and her through being taught that she was helpless without constant support. "I don't know who I am without being the special one," she wrote. "And I think maybe you don't know who you are without being the invisible one. We were both taught wrong things about ourselves. I'm trying to unlearn mine. I hope you get the chance to unlearn yours too." I read the letter 4 times. Then I took it to my next therapy session. Dr. Okonkwo and I spent an hour examining it, checking for manipulation red flags, testing its authenticity against what genuine accountability looks like. She said she couldn't tell me whether Emma was sincere, only Emma could prove that over time, through consistent actions. But she noted that the letter didn't center Emma's feelings, didn't minimize my experience, and didn't ask for anything in return. Those were good signs. I wrote back a short response. I acknowledged her letter, thanked her for her honesty, and said I was open to careful, limited contact to see if we could build something new. Not the sibling relationship we had before, that was built on an unhealthy foundation. Something different. She responded within a day. She agreed. She suggested coffee, somewhere neutral. No pressure, no expectations. We're meeting next week. Final update. 6 months later. This will likely be my last post here, and I want to give this story the ending it deserves. Not a neat, Hollywood ending, but an honest one. Emma and I have been meeting monthly for coffee. That first meeting was awkward. 2 strangers with shared DNA trying to figure out how to talk to each other without the scripts our parents wrote for us. But we've found a rhythm. We talk about our weeks, our work, our respective therapy journeys. She's learning to see me as a whole person with interests and struggles and value beyond what I can provide. I'm learning to see her as more than the preferred child, more than the competition I was set up to lose against. Her marriage is stabilizing. The mold situation was resolved by the landlord after Emma and Derek threatened legal action. She's learning to advocate for herself rather than waiting to be rescued. Derek got a better position at a different dealership, and Emma's business picked up once wedding season started again. They're still in the small apartment, but they're building something of their own. She told me last month that it feels different to earn something than to have it handed to her. "I never understood why you seemed so proud of things you worked for," she said. "I thought you were being smug. Now I get it. When you earn something yourself, it actually belongs to you." 3 weeks ago, Emma and I did something we'd been discussing in our separate therapy sessions. We confronted our parents together. It wasn't a surprise ambush. We reached out beforehand, told them we wanted to have a family conversation about patterns we'd identified in our upbringing. Our father was reluctant. He's never been comfortable with emotional discussions. Our mother seemed hopeful, probably thinking we were coming to apologize and restore family harmony. We met at a neutral location, a conference room at the community center where my support group meets. Both Emma and I had prepared what we wanted to say. We'd practiced with our therapists. We knew it might not go well, and we'd made peace with that possibility. I went first. I told them what it was like to grow up invisible. Not abused, not neglected in the ways that leave visible marks, but overlooked in ways that shaped everything about who I became. I described specific moments, the college fund that was redirected, the graduations that were afterthoughts, the consistent message that my accomplishments didn't warrant celebration because they were expected from me. "You taught me that I was a resource, not a son," I said. "That my value was in what I could provide, not in who I was." The condo request wasn't an isolated incident. It was the logical conclusion of 30 years of training. My mother cried. My father sat rigid, jaw tight. Emma went next. She talked about the other side of the coin, how being the special one seemed like a gift but was actually its own kind of damage. How she was taught that she was helpless, that she couldn't survive without constant support, that her worth was in being charming and lovable rather than competent and capable. "You told me I was amazing, but you never taught me to be strong," she said. "You told me I lit up rooms, but you never helped me build anything that could last when the lights went out. You loved me in a way that kept me dependent on you." Our mother's defense was what I expected. "We did our best. We never meant to hurt either of you. We loved you both equally, we just showed it differently." Our father said less. He seemed genuinely stunned. At one point he said quietly, "I didn't know you felt this way." "That's part of the problem," I replied. "You never asked." The conversation didn't end with a magical reconciliation. There were no tearful apologies, no promises to change, no immediate healing. Our parents left looking shaken, uncertain. Our mother hugged Emma but hesitated before hugging me, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed. Since then, contact has been minimal but different. Our mother sent me a text a week later that said simply, "I'm thinking about what you said." Our father hasn't reached out, but he also hasn't sent any more demands or accusations. I don't know if they'll change. Dr. Okonkwo reminds me that I can't control that, only my own responses. Maybe they'll do the hard work of examining their patterns. Maybe they won't. Either way, I said what I needed to say. The invisible child was finally seen, even if only for an hour. As for me, I'm still going to support group, though I'm considering training to become a facilitator myself. Marcus jokes that I've gone from the IT guy to the feelings guy. I've started dating again, carefully, with someone I met at a hiking club. She knows about my family stuff. She has her own. We're both works in progress. I still live in my condo. I've started redecorating, making it feel more like mine instead of a placeholder I didn't deserve. I bought a nice couch. I hung art on the walls. I planted herbs on the balcony. This is my home. I earned it. I get to keep it. And more importantly, I'm learning that I get to keep myself too. The parts of me that my family overlooked are still here. The dreams they didn't ask about still exist. The person I might have become without 30 years of emotional neglect is someone I can still grow into. I'm not invisible anymore. Not to Emma, who texts me now just to say hi. Not to Marcus, who's become one of my closest friends. Not to my therapist or my support group or the woman I'm slowly getting to know. And most importantly, not to myself. Thank you, Reddit, for being the first place where I felt seen. Thank you for pointing me toward resources, for validating my reality, for telling me I wasn't crazy when I very much felt like I was. You didn't fix my family, that was never possible. But you helped me realize I had permission to fix my relationship with myself. That's the thing about being the invisible one. Once you start seeing yourself, everything changes. Invisible IT guy, finally visible. End.